someone that had always struggled on a personal level with self-esteem and with self-worth. Not that I think I would have associated myself with those terms in that way back then, but I'd never really had any confidence. I didn't particularly like who I was. 95% of like who I was and how I felt and what I did was subconscious. Like I didn't want to work with conscious thoughts anymore. I didn't want to work with conscious feelings anymore. I wanted to understand everything that was within, everything that was hidden.
Hello and welcome to the Pivot Project, episode 9. My name's Davika and I'm your host for today. And today I'm here with Shay Matthews. Shay Matthews is a self-concept coach and she helps women reshape how they feel about themselves. Hi, Shay.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
You are very welcome.
I'm very excited for our conversation.
Are you?
Yeah. And we've spent the last, couple of hours just chatting in general, and every single thing that we spoke about, I was like, can you save this on the podcast? Can you say it on the podcast?
I actually can't remember a lot of what we spoke about because I'm so in the moment.
I love that. You're very present, which makes sense because of what you do.
Okay.
There you go. Will you tell me a little bit about how you got to the point that you are today? How did you become a self-concept coach? Let's go backwards.
Well, this definitely isn't always what I did. So I started my career working in not-for-profit organisations, working with charitable organisations, working in marketing and communications.
Yeah.
Because I felt like there was all of this injustice in the world. There were all of these people that needed help. And I felt like the only reason that they didn't have it is because not enough people knew about it. So it felt like a really important role in terms of spreading the word, helping people understand how they could get involved. So I did that for about 17 years of my life.
17 years, your first career.
Yeah.
Marketing. And you were mentioned earlier about like you essentially wrote articles to get people to donate to these charities, right?
Yeah, so we did all sorts of things, like we'd organise events, fundraising events that people could take part in. I would write press releases that we would send off to the like main media outlets to ask them to promote the things that we were doing, just to like raise awareness of how people could get involved or of like how they could help.
Yeah, and have you always had that want to help and make the world a better place?
I think so. I think so. It's always been important to me to do something that was contributing to the world in some way, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I appreciated how much that was important to me until I worked outside of that sector.
Yeah.
There was a really short period in my career where for 6 months I worked for a private organisation and they were really sales driven.
Yeah.
And they were like, we want more customers through this door.
Yeah.
And I was like, what about the customers that we've already got? What if we gave them an even better experience?
Yeah.
What if we nurtured them and found out what they wanted or how we could help them even more? They'll come back and they'll spend more money. And they were just like, no, we don't care.
That's
we want new
interesting,
customers. Though. Yeah. And so I literally handed my notice in.
You were like, I'm done.
Yeah. I was like, it's not for me.
It's not for me.
It's not for me.
I need to nurture the people that I'm working with, that are around me.
I care about people. I'm a people person.
You're a people person.
Yeah.
Which makes sense to like what you do now. But then you did marketing for 17 years?
Yeah. Marketing, communications, events.
Yeah. And then what kind of...
What changed?
How come you pivoted?
Oh, there were so many different reasons. I think for me, a lot of it was personal. So I was someone that had always struggled on a personal level with self-esteem and with self-worth. Not that I think I would have associated myself with those terms in that way back then, but I'd never really had any confidence. I didn't particularly like who I was. Nobody would have ever known that from the outside though.
No.
Because I was very sociable. I had like a huge circle of friends, quite a close-knit family. I had a really good job. So like to people looking from the outside in, they were like, yeah, she's got her life together. She's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't on the inside.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Like how, because I'm on paper, quite confident, quite bubbly, quite out there.
Yeah.
But no one really knows, like, I guess, the inner struggles that you have.
Do you know why I think that is, though? Because I think that we've grown up in a very, like, westernized society. So from a very young age, we've almost been taught to, like, assess our level of happiness or attach our level of happiness to very external things.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much have you got? How much do you earn?
Yeah.
Like, how big is your friendship group? How many people think you're popular?
Yeah.
So we look at people like that. It's like shiny object syndrome. You know, we look at people and think their life looks shiny, like, yeah, they're totally fine.
That's with social media as well. Makes it even more like putting people on a pedestal or, I want that. I want to be like that.
But that is no reflection of how you can actually feel either within yourself or just generally, like how content you feel, how at peace you are, like how happy you are.
So what was the shift then for you? So let's say you didn't have much confidence, you struggled with like self-image, self-esteem. When did you realize that? And then when did you decide to kind of, I guess, change your career to help that, if that makes sense?
I always felt that way.
Yeah.
So like I never had any confidence. Ever had any confidence. So I always felt, I literally hated who I was. I hated everything about me. I hated like the way that I looked. That was a huge thing for me. And from a very young age as well, like literally from the age of 6 or 7, I really disliked my appearance. I really struggled because at that time, when I was growing up in the world, there wasn't like a lot of representation.
No.
So everything that I looked at didn't look like me.
Yeah.
All of the people that were successful didn't look like me.
No, 100%.
Everything that was portrayed as beautiful did not look like me. So I really struggled to find my place in the world and to feel like I was important, to feel like I was just as good as everybody else. But I think definitely in those younger years and going into my teens, I felt so unattractive, like more than unattractive. I just felt ugly. I just genuinely couldn't compute in my head how I could look different to the standard that was being portrayed and still be beautiful. You know, like I felt like that is what beautiful is, and if you're not that, then you obviously aren't beautiful.
Sure.
But I was only young, you know, like so I always had this feeling of not being enough, of not being good enough, and that like continued all the way through my life. And I think because I was in like such diverse circles as well when I grew up. So like I came from quite a deprived area, from very humble beginnings, but I went to a private grammar school, and then I got a scholarship to go into like a private high school.
Wow.
And like it's interesting because at primary school, my primary school was actually very diverse. Yeah. But I still felt inferior.
Wow.
Because of like all of the imagery that was around, you know, like I still felt like other people were better than me. Yeah. Because of the difference in the colour of my skin. Yeah. And I don't think I even, like the interesting thing about that is that I didn't even recognise that had impacted me until literally like my late 30s.
Really?
Yeah, like how do you even go through your whole life and not realise that?
But do you think that's just because it became the norm and
it
like
was my
that
norm.
was
So it was like it was a very much accepted part of my reality. Yeah. You know, like whenever I felt like the majority of the time when I was in a space, I was like the only person of colour. Yeah. In all the organisations that I worked in, I was the only person of colour. In my high school, there was like me and one other woman of colour. Yeah. And at high school, I went to school with people that had like a lot of money, or maybe they didn't have a lot of money, but they definitely had more money than me and my mum. Yeah. So like my difference became even more noticeable. Sure. You know, like from my mum's house, you go around the corner, there's prostitutes stood on the end of the road. You know, like I grew up around people that, in terms of their lives, they were like in and out of trouble with the law their whole life. That was my norm. Yeah. And then I would go to school and they were like, yeah, we're going skiing. Yeah. And I'm going to the stables to ride my pony.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Do you know, like it was like just a totally different world. I'd never known anything like it. Sure. But it affected my sense of self. When I look back now, like it had a massive effect on my sense of self, because I looked at them and it like in a very like innocent way. I was just like your life seems to be a lot better than my life, and the way that you're living your life seems to be a lot better than anybody I know. Yeah. And the things that you have and like enjoy seems to be better. So I was just like, you know, the key to success is being more like you. Yeah.
Do you know what? I can kind of relate on a little bit of a different level. Yeah. So I went to uni in Birmingham and a lot of the people there, you know, they'd been to boarding school or private school, and I really felt that kind of disparity, should I say? And for a while, like I think when I came back from uni, I was like, Mum, I want to have smoked salmon for breakfast. And my mum's like, you can get beans on toast. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. Like it does influence like, you know, who you want to become or where you want to surround yourself. It kind of can influence that.
Yeah, it had a massive impact for me. And I think like I felt like at school that I was living two very different lives.
Yeah.
Because I would go to school and like everything was different. Like the things that they did for fun were different. Like I said, they would go like horse riding and like they would go shopping.
Yeah.
Like nobody that I knew had money to go shopping.
No.
Like so they would like do all of these different things, and the music that I listened to was different. I'd be at school and like I'd listen to Queen and Alanis Morissette, and I loved all of those, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it was very different from like coming home and like coming around my friends. We'd be listening to R&B, we'd be listening to Bashment.
I was going to say.
Like it was just so different.
Yeah.
In everything. Like I'd come home and I'd have on my baggy jeans, my Fila trainers, like my hood, and then I would be with them and I'd have on like a long skirt and I'd have on like my Doc Martens.
Yeah.
It was just two totally different worlds. And I think for a long time I was like, but I enjoy this world, I felt like I had to pick.
Yeah.
I was 100%. Like, who am I? Do you know, like, and because there were such worlds apart.
Yeah. And you've mentioned before about like your ability to code switch as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like where that stemmed from?
Definitely, because like when I was going to school, I think I learned very early on that some of my experiences that were very normal were not normal for everybody at school. So like it wouldn't be unnormal for like somebody that I knew to have like a brick go through their window.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't be unnormal for somebody I know to like have like something quite explosive happen with somebody that they were seeing. And I would go to school and they would talk about that and the sheer shock on their faces. Do you know, like I could immediately, I was like, oh,
Shay.
yeah. They were like, what? So I think I learned from a very early age that like I wasn't going to share any of that anymore.
Okay.
Because like I was the only one that had those kinds of stories.
Yeah, like come to school with drama.
Yeah, I was like, so this happened, at the weekend, or this happened to my friend.
Yeah.
And like that was just so far away from the life that they knew. And like when you're younger, you just want to fit in, you just want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So like I just kept so much of myself hidden. And another big thing which I look at and I laugh at now, but my mum and dad aren't married.
Yeah.
But it was a big thing. Like at school, it was a big thing. Like they all came from very stable units.
Sure.
They had that like family unit.
Yeah.
So the idea that my mum and dad were not married, and then the fact that my mum and dad had lived in different houses, they were like, what?
Yeah.
Like again, it was just like different. So like I don't have a different colour skin. I don't have as much money as you. Like my lifestyle seems to be so different. It was just this whole conflict.
Wow. So that was like your upbringing, and then within sort of like workspaces and organizations, you still felt the same. Like you felt like
I still felt the same, because I think I always felt like I think what that left me feeling was that like I was in this environment and that maybe I wasn't meant to be there.
Yeah.
Like, I got a scholarship to go to that school. Like not everybody got a scholarship to go to that school. Some people paid to go to that school.
Yeah.
And even though now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, you were totally deserving of your place because your academic ability got you there. But like back then, I felt like a fraud. Like somehow I'd snuck my way into this school and I wasn't meant to be there. And that continued, so like all the way through college. And it's interesting. I went to two colleges. The first college that I went to, again, like there wasn't that much diversity.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do well at college. I didn't ever go to college. Like I had like 19% attendance.
Yeah. I think I had about 18.
Yeah, something ridiculous. And then I remember when I was doing like my exam, on the day of my exam, I was like, I cannot do this exam because I have not revised. And so like I got one of my friends to push me in a nettle bush. Like, I got one of my friends to push me in a nettle bush. It felt like the best idea in the world at the time. But I obviously came up in all of these like
Stop.
Yeah. So then I went to college thinking that they would just be like, oh, like you don't have to do the exam, and they were like, we're going to take you to the pharmacy and then you're going to do your exam.
Stop it! So you went through this pain for no reason.
I went through all of that pain for no reason. Still had to do the exam.
So funny.
But I didn't really go to the college because I didn't really align with like their methods of teaching.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really feel like I fit in because there was just only ever a handful of people of colour, and everybody again was quite wealthy. So then, like that college would not have me back. I mean, I was quite troublesome back then.
Yeah.
Like I always made up excuses as to why I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so poorly. I've got a chest infection. I think I told them I had like a kidney infection at one point. I can't remember what else. I've got a kidney infection. I told them I thought I was pregnant at one time. And my mum and dad were going to Vegas, right? And it like fell on the same time as it fell at the same time as parents' evening. So I was like, this is sweet. They are never going to know. And then my mum had to change flights because she couldn't get the holiday from work.
No.
So that meant she was going to be here for parents' evening.
Oh, no.
So then I had to go around to all of my teachers and say, I said that I thought I was pregnant.
Yeah.
That was a lie. I said I thought I had a kidney infection. That was a lie. Because I was just like, I can't have them like say that to my mum or say that to my dad. Like, obviously she's had a really difficult year.
And they're like none the wiser.
So I went back and like told them all that like I wasn't telling the truth.
Yeah. And what did they say?
Thinking that would mean, this is what I mean, thinking that would mean that they didn't mention any of it to my mum and dad. But obviously they still did. So I still got in trouble anyway.
Oh man.
But I went to another college. And like that college was one that you had to again like apply to get into.
Okay.
And then I just went to like the local college up the road, and honestly I've never felt more at home.
Really?
Yeah, just because there was just like far more diversity. And that was the thing that I loved, like when I was in a diverse environment, I didn't feel judged.
Yeah.
Whereas when I wasn't, I always felt like I was, because I was the only one.
Yeah.
I always felt like I then needed to be something other than me, or maybe I worried that if I was me that it wouldn't be good enough. And that was generally a feeling that I think I felt all the way throughout my career. But for me, like I didn't connect with so many of these feelings because they were never vocalized.
Right.
Like I just accepted like you're going to go to work, and when you open those doors, nobody else is going to look like you. Or you're going to be in this space and everybody else is going to come from like a really good background and you're not. So like, because I just very much accepted that as that's just how your life is. It wasn't something that I talked about with other people. It was just like an inner narrative that was constantly playing in my head. So then I always felt like a bit of an imposter. And like I felt like I always felt this need to prove myself. Not that I thought about it like that back then.
Yeah, because you don't, do you, really?
No.
When you're like doing it, it's not until afterwards where you were like, okay.
Yeah, because I would absolutely work my ass off. And it worked because I was very successful, like in my careers, and I always achieved amazing things. I would lead these projects, and like they would go amazingly. But then, because I worked so hard, I ended up moving up the ladder quite quickly. Yeah, and then that put me in rooms at a leadership level, and a lot of those people in those rooms were like 10, 15 years older than me. So once again, like I didn't feel like I belonged. Yeah. Like I'd done all of this work to like prove like I'm good enough and I deserve to be here. And then again I was in this space where I just felt very different because there was that age gap. Yeah. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to Ibiza like for the weekend, and they would be doing something just wholesome. So then like I would hide it. Like I would fly into Ibiza for the weekend. I'd come into work on Monday and they'd be like, "Oh, Shay, you look so tired." Like,
and I love that. I love the difference. Like, Shay,
you look so tired. And I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't sleep much." Like, never mention at all that like I've flown to Spain. I've been on a dance floor for like most of the weekend. I just wouldn't mention it because again, I felt like it was going to take away from my credibility. Yeah, I was like, if they really knew the real me, then somehow like they wouldn't
respect you.
That I wouldn't be respected, that I wouldn't be valued in the same way. I didn't even tell people the music that I liked.
That's mad. That
like now to me it's wild. Yeah,
it's wild because we've just been in your car while you've been playing like Megan Thee Stallion. My gosh, a little bit of Beyonce. Like we just got down a little bit then.
Yeah, but I didn't dare tell anybody any of it. So like, and that I didn't realize that. Yeah, I didn't realise that I needed to work on me or that I had things to heal because I kind of just accepted that was just the way that I felt. Like, you're not confident, okay, like you don't find yourself attractive, okay, like you're just not as fortunate as other people. So those were just thoughts that I lived with every day.
And kind of accepted as the truth.
But for me, the turning point was like one of my relationships. Okay. Because it was like so painful. Like after that relationship, it was so painful. It was the most difficult relationship that I've had. I've only had 3 long-term relationships. Pretty much not one after the other, but maybe like a year in between them. So I've spent most of my life in relationships. And that one was just so painful. And I recognized in that relationship that I didn't feel confident. Wow. And that like my insecurity played into how that relationship played out. And number one, I felt like I could never go through that again. I was like, I could never have a relationship like this again.
Until I'm healed?
Until like, I just knew that I wanted to change how I felt. I wanted to change how I showed up in a relationship. And there were a lot of things that I experienced in that relationship that no woman should experience. And I also recognised that, like, I played my part in that, like, I stayed.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, I just accepted things that if I felt more confident, if I valued myself more, I would have walked away from a long time before, and I didn't.
That's quite a powerful realization though as well, like almost kind of taking accountability for the person that stayed and tolerated certain things.
Yeah.
That's like quite a big realization.
Yeah, it was for me. And I think,
I
think like before that, when I first started getting into things like counselling and psychotherapy and coaching and all of those things, I very much saw like my partner as the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at like his behaviours and I was like, if he didn't do that, then we'd be happy. Or if he didn't say these things, then like, you know, our relationship would be amazing. But I don't know, at some point you have to recognise, well, what was it in you that felt attracted to someone like that in the first place?
Wow.
Do you know, like, why did you ever think that this was going to be a good idea? And so I just thought, you know, like I could sit here and I could very much blame him for all of the things that he did that were hurtful because they were 100% not acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm not kind of taking away from any of that whatsoever. But I also have to look at, like, my partner picker. Do you know, my partner picker. Like, do you know, like, why was I ever drawn to somebody like that? Why did I, stay in that relationship? And actually, I think for me, I've always like seen the best in people. Do you know, like I look at someone or like when I think about like my previous partners, I always looked at them and thought, oh my God, like your life could be so amazing. Like you could do so much more and you don't even see it. You don't even see how amazing you could be.
Yeah.
And so like I would start these relationships and like just always see them in a way that they never saw themselves.
Like almost their potential.
Yeah. Like I had so much belief in them, and a lot of the time they didn't feel that way. They wanted to, do you know, but they didn't feel that way, and because they didn't feel that way, they weren't able to action it.
Right. Okay.
Do you know, like, and I'm a very action oriented person, so I was like, oh my God, like, you know, what if you did this or what if you did that? And for some people, they have to be ready, you know, like to take that kind of step or to take that kind of action. So
Did you decide to kind of pursue like counselling and therapy whilst you were in that relationship then?
Yeah, so I went through my own, so I've always been into self-development.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've had this lifelong insecurity. So I always looked at things like, you know, like how to improve my confidence, how to improve my self-esteem.
So you're already doing the work?
I was already doing the work, but not really.
Okay.
You know, like now I look back and nothing that I did in that period was ever going to make a difference because I really didn't understand like how to create change.
Wow.
You know, like, and I think a lot of women don't understand how to create change. I think, you know, a lot of women spend a lot of time focusing on things that are going to improve your mood, but they aren't actually going to do things that are going to change the core underlying emotion that is causing you to feel like great.
That is powerful.
It's so powerful. Like you think about any woman in like that goes through a breakup. I can 100% always see when a woman has gone through a breakup through her social media. There are like some key things that she does.
Go on,
in terms of like,
Share.
like she always cuts her hair or dyes her hair.
Yeah.
Like she has this whole like image overhaul.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll get into the gym. Do you know, like all of a sudden she's all about her health. She's all about her fitness. Like, she'll suddenly, or like, she'll suddenly become focused. Like, not that she isn't focused before, but all of a sudden it's like me and my kids. Do you know, like it's all about me and my family.
Yeah.
But like, you see these real like things that to me are very obvious, or they'll say like treating myself. You know, like I bought the boots, I've done all of these different things, and it's like. And I get it because like you come out of something like that that's incredibly painful and you think, how do I feel? I feel sad. So actually what can I do to help myself feel happy?
Yeah.
But, you know, like that isn't going to change anything because if you've been in a relationship where you felt betrayed or you felt rejected, like all of a sudden, like when you look at what that emotion is that you feel, then buying yourself some boots is not going to make you feel any less betrayed.
Wow.
You know, like
that's
cutting
true.
your hair is not going to make you feel any less rejected.
Ooh.
But we tend to focus on very surface level emotions.
Yeah.
You know, like most people, when you ask them how they feel, they say, I feel hurt. That's it. And because it's a universally understood concept, like most people don't dig any deeper. They'll be like, oh, babe, I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
So we don't. Like, we're like, this doesn't feel great. Like, hurt is a word that I understand, so that's as far as I'm going.
Yeah.
But then because you don't go any deeper, then that is what kind of keeps you stuck. And most people, when they talk about like getting over something or moving forward from something, like that isn't actually what's happened.
Sure.
Like, generally what's happened is that they have spoken about that thing enough times that they can speak about it without any attachment.
Right.
So as in, like, they can speak about it without any emotion, but the underlying feeling is still there. And that's why, like, you can be in a relationship that was painful and then after 6 months think, I don't even think about that man anymore. Yeah. And then, like, meet a new man and all of those old insecurities are suddenly there.
Yeah.
Because you're not over those feelings. You're not over the things that happen to you. Everything still exists.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where I spent a lot of my life, you know, like
doing the kind of superficial,
doing the surface level stuff.
Healing.
You know, like,
Healing.
Thinking I was healing, thinking I was like loving myself, thinking I was doing all of these things. That made absolutely no difference. And I think for a long time, like, I didn't even understand what any of these concepts meant. You know, like, people talked about self-love, people talked about self-esteem, some people talked about self-worth, and I was like, I kind of understood them on a theoretical level. Yeah. I was like, conceptually, I get it. Yeah. How do I do it? Yeah. And that is the bit that I didn't understand.
Is that why you wanted to like learn more in terms of like therapeutic methods?
Yeah. 100%. Because like I felt like I'd been doing things that I thought were going to help me for a long time. Yeah. And I knew I didn't feel one bit of difference.
Wow.
I knew that I still hated myself. I knew that, like, even on, and this is the thing, like, I think for most women, consciously or like on paper, you have a very different perception of yourself. So like on paper, I was like, I'm a good woman. Like, I know that I've got a really good heart.
I love what you said, like on paper.
On paper, yeah.
Because like, on paper, you know, I'm sure everyone can kind of come up with a few positives about themselves, but do they actually believe it?
Yeah, there's a difference. So there's a difference between a thought and a feeling, and that's where most of us stay within like a very thought-based space. Yeah. So on paper, we'll be like, I'm a good woman, I've got a good heart, I've got a lot of love to give, I'm always kind to people, I'm honest, you know, like I live by integrity. So we're like, I deserve a good man, I'm a good person, I deserve good things in this life. Yeah. You know, like just all of these different things on paper. Yeah. That's on paper.
On paper.
But actually, when you look at the way that somebody lives their life, you look at their actions, and their actions will tell you very different. Yeah. You know, like, so for like me, example, I wouldn't have stayed in a relationship like that if I felt, if I believed what I, you know, thought on paper.
On paper.
Yeah, you wouldn't. And like thoughts and feelings are so different. Like thoughts are so unreliable, it's untrue. Yeah. Like so unreliable. Like your thoughts are so changeable.
I've learned this. I've learned this the hard way.
So changeable. And we use a very thought-based approach. Like, you know, I can talk myself in or talk myself out of anything that I want to at any given point in the day. I always use the example of the gym for me personally, because like some days I'll go hard at the gym and I'll come out of the gym and like my mum or someone will say to me like, do you want some chocolate? And I'll be like, Mum, like, if you knew how hard I'd worked in that gym today, you would know that I do not want that chocolate. Yeah. Why would I want it? And there'll be other days that I go to the gym and my mum will not offer me some chocolate, and I'll be like, you're not gonna share. And she'll be like, but you've been to the gym. And I went, exactly. I have worked hard. I deserve that chocolate.
I love that. I love that. That's such a good example.
So it's like, it's the same situation, but my thought about it like on any given day could be different.
Yeah, 100%.
But we use our thoughts all of the time as like a gauge, like of what we should do in certain situations, and they're really a really poor indicator.
Yeah, they're unreliable, aren't they?
They're unreliable because like a thought is just an idea, and it might not even be your idea. It might be somebody else's idea. Like, you know, like when I looked in the mirror and I thought I'm unattractive, at that point it wasn't my idea. No. You know, like the only reason I felt that was because in the magazines that I was reading, they literally said, this is what beauty is. So that wasn't even my thought that first created that. Yeah. You know, like that came from somewhere else, but I took it on as my own. Yeah. You know, so like the difference between a thought and a feeling is like, you know, a feeling is emotion based, it's heart led. Like a feeling is not something that can be changed. You know, like I feel cold, like you couldn't tell me any different. Like if I'm cold, I'm cold, and that is it. You know, like if I feel hurt, I'm hurt. There isn't no if, buts or maybes. I am hurt. So your feelings are a much better indicator of how you think or feel about a situation. But most people stay in their head. Yeah. Whereas your feelings, like they're stored in your body. Yeah.
And that's kind of, is that where your type of like the modalities that you use?
Yeah.
in your career have stemmed from that idea of like body embodiment?
Yeah, I do. I love embodiment because I love dance. You know, like we love a bit of heels.
We love a bit of heels.
But I think I've spent a long time in my life trying to figure out how we as people tick. So I understand a lot about like how our brains work, how our bodies work, how our nervous systems work, like how our heart works and the connection between our mind and our heart. So I really wanted to take like a holistic overview of how someone came to think, feel, see themselves and what needed to happen internally in order for that to change.
Right.
That's literally kind of where I came from. And yeah, like I first got into it when I was in a relationship, because I was like, let me see if I can change him. And then
I love the honesty, right?
Yeah,
because some people wouldn't admit that.
I would totally admit that. Like,
I'm glad that you admit it, because you know, I think like 90% of women would be like, no, I'm not doing it to change the man.
Yeah, no, I 100%. Like, I 100% want to change him, but at the time, I felt like it was for his benefit.
Yeah, of course.
Because I was just like, I can see that he's been through so much and he needs to deal with that. And maybe if he dealt with it, then he would show up in a different way. He would show up as the man that I know that he can be. Do you know, like I was like, yeah, and that's kind of where it came from.
On paper,
yeah, like on paper. But you know, like there was a very kind of like personal like motivation behind it, because I was like, if he showed up as that man, then he'd love me more. Then I would get what I wanted. So like things like that back then, you know, like, and a lot of women do that. You know, they're like, oh, I just see the best in them. I see the potential. I see all of these things, but. You know, like when we overgive, when we please people, you know, when we say, oh, I'm an empath and I just enjoy doing all of these things for people, there's actually a very like personal drive behind it. And it's generally because you are trying to meet an emotional need within you.
Wow.
As in like, I want to feel like a good enough person. Or I'm hoping if I do this for me, you're going to do this for me. So then therefore I'll feel loved. So it's all like... It all like stems back to you.
So when did the kind of light bulb moment happen?
Yeah.
That you realised that what you were doing wasn't actually the best for you, and that you needed to focus more on your potential?
I think sort of like I got to a point where like I think it was like, I think the universe forced my hand.
Okay.
Because
so you done counselling, right?
I was doing counselling.
Yeah.
And I'd already done coaching as well.
Yeah.
And like I was so focused on like understanding the psychology of people, like what made them tick, what caused them to be like that, like what their wounds were. And in some ways it was like really empowering, because it developed my empathy even more, which I felt like I'd always got, but like I felt so compassionate for lots of different people, you know, in terms of, I was like, you know, I could see you're coming from a wound, like you're not a bad person, like you're doing all of these things because you're hurt. Yeah. And this is your safety mechanism, the way that this is your survival mechanism. But I think I'd not seen any change in me. And I like at that point in my life, I got made redundant. Right. I hadn't ended my relationship, but I'd asked him to leave.
Oh, okay.
At the time...
And you got made redundant from what job?
I was working for like a charity, like one of the top 5 charities in the UK at the time.
Right, and that was whilst you were doing your training, or...?
Yeah, I was still doing my training at that point.
Yeah.
And so I asked him to leave, and I was also going through a massive health scare. So like I had a GP tell me that they thought I had cancer. So like I had just so much going on that all of a sudden I did not have the capacity to focus on this man. Yeah. You know, like to sort out your life, because I did a lot of that. Yeah. You know, like I was always picking up pieces for him. And I just couldn't do it anymore because my whole life had fallen apart. I was like, okay, like I don't have my health. I don't have like money. I don't have a job. Like I had no stability. I don't have my relationship. Yeah. So that's when I started to focus on me, because I needed it at that point.
And what did focusing on you look like? So obviously you'd gone through years of superficial looking after yourself, caring for yourself, self-care, self-love, all of that. Like what did that look like?
So it was a very like... It was a journey that evolved. So, like, first and foremost, I did all the things that I just talked about. Like, as in, like, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to spend my money on me for a change. Do you know what? I'm going to, like, focus on my health. And I lost loads of weight. And I got this new job and it was amazing. And I realized that like I still didn't feel great.
Yeah.
So like I'd made all of these external changes. Like I had a job that was paying me double what I earned before. I like had probably lost like 2 or 3 stone. I'd done loads of things. Like I had a whole new wardrobe. I dressed differently, and I was like, I've still got no confidence. Like,
where's that bloody confidence?
None of that has made like any difference. And so, like, I started to kind of look into how, like how we are the way that we are, basically. And that's when I started, like, I came across the ideas around, like, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Because 95% of what you think, of what you do, of how you feel is driven by your subconscious.
Yeah.
And your subconscious is basically a record of everything that you've ever done. So, like, this moment now between me and you will be stored in your subconscious. And, like, every interaction that you have with anybody in this world is stored in your subconscious. And in that moment, you create beliefs based on how you feel about yourself, about the world, about the person that's in that moment with you, and that is stored. And then the next time that you are ever in a situation that is similar, or whenever you're moving through life, your subconscious uses that as a guide to help you see how you should show up in that moment, if it's safe for you to be yourself, like if it's safe for you to like share like who you are, and if you have experienced something that didn't quite work out the way that you wanted it to, it creates like adaptations. And those adaptations are generally feelings that it surfaces that will keep you from doing certain things, from saying certain things. So you end up living a life full of limits.
Wow.
Basically. But when I kind of recognized that 95% of like who I was and how I felt and what I did was subconscious. Like I didn't want to work with conscious thoughts anymore. I didn't want to work with conscious feelings anymore. I wanted to understand everything that was within, everything that was hidden. Yeah. Because those are the things that I'm totally unaware of that are like creating me. Like they are like the reason why Shay is the Shay that everybody else in the world knows today.
That's true.
So what is that? Like, what are those thoughts and feelings? It was like more curiosity, and I was like totally blown away by what I found.
So was it like going beyond like what you'd expect of kind of normal, I don't know, when you go to therapy or counselling, it's like it works beyond that.
Works beyond that. So like, because the thing is, when you go to therapy, you're working with your conscious thoughts.
Okay.
And like when you are working with your conscious thoughts, you project a lot. So if you would have ever asked me why I didn't feel confident, I would always have attributed that to my relationships.
Right.
I would always have said, like, I had a really difficult relationship. Like, my last relationship was really difficult. My relationship before that, my partner cheated on me. And I've never really felt the same since. That's what I would have said. Whereas through the work that I've done, that is what reconnected me with all of those feelings from childhood, where I was like, in those moments, you know, like, because they were because it was so normal for me to be different or to be the odd one out or to be the only girl that was black. I didn't like look at that and attach it to pain or attach it to trauma. I don't often use that word, but you know, attach it to anything that was going to have a significant impact on me, because like I wasn't going to school crying every day, for example. Yeah. Do you know, like, so whereas, you know, like in my relationship I was. So that is what I perceived to be something that could have had a negative impact on me. But the things that have an impact on you could be a passing moment. Like I could go get a coffee tomorrow and someone could look at me in a way that made me feel something, and that might affect how I engage with people moving forward. Yeah. So it uncovered so much for me. Like I finally figured out like why I was the way that I was, and it was like it's difficult to describe. It's like all of a sudden everything makes sense. Wow. In your world. Like all of a sudden you have far more compassion for who you are. Like instead of like criticizing yourself, you've got a lot more kindness, because you can totally see how and why you feel that way. Yeah. And like for most people, they've spent their whole lives being a bit of a mystery. Do you know, like I find that people find themselves in patterns. Yeah. So they're like, you know, like they'll be like, I've never felt confident. I've always struggled. And we talk in very like absolute terms. Yeah, like in that way.
This is just who I am.
Yeah. So they'll say like, I've always struggled like in big groups of people, and I've never had confidence, or like I've never been able to wear like dresses above my knee. Yeah. Or we'll say like, I'm just a shy person. And actually, like you were not born that way.
No,
like,
well, none of us were like, things have been inflicted on us as well. And we've been influenced by the environments that we've surrounded ourselves with.
Totally. I mean, don't even make me get, like, I could go really deep onto all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, there's so many things that people believe about themselves as a personality characteristic or a trait that actually is like a survival response based on an experience that you've had previously. So, like, if you are someone, for example, that wouldn't stand up in front of a full room of people and deliver a speech, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, and I could probably find out where that came from in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's... But we wouldn't ever think about our lives in that way. Yeah. So, like, when I worked within counselling, when I was delivering pure counselling, I was working with people that had really complex histories. So I was working with, people that had just endured so much in their life that you just wouldn't even believe, that one person could have experienced so much stuff. And I recognised really early, like, they're going to be sat in that chair forever. Like, they're going to be talking about all of this stuff forever. And talking about something does nothing. Yeah. No, it actually does nothing. You know, like, we in this country say it's okay to talk. Do you know, like, talking about your problems just convinces your brain that you're experiencing it again and again and again and again. Your body responds as if it's there. It's really interesting you say that, because I've had, different types of therapy, counselling, coaching, and I am a talker. Yeah. I like to talk and I like to give context to things. Yeah. That's all well and good, but what I've realised recently, and we've had conversations about that, I can theorise, I can be cognizant of, I can be very self-aware, but nothing changes if nothing changes. Yeah, and a lot of us do that. We intellectualise our experiences, like, because we're searching for a reason, especially if something has happened to you. Or if you feel that you are a certain way that is different to everybody else, we try to find meaning. So in the way that we do that is we take a very logical approach. Like, we try and apply like a problem-solving approach to our emotional feelings. So we'll look back at our experiences and think, why did that person do that? Or why am I the way that I am? And then we will, like, evaluate ourselves. Like, and that's not the way to find the answer. Yeah. So, like, if you connect with how you feel about something, like, you will change that situation very quickly. But most people don't know how to process their emotions. No. I'll be honest, like, that's something that I was speaking about earlier today. When people show you, like, an emotion wheel. Yeah. I've had it where coaches have said, okay, so what do you feel? Yeah. And I've kind of, like, I've actually been unsure of how I feel. Yeah. But that's just one step of it. And then it's actually learning how to process that. Yeah. So, that's very common. Even I had to do that. And, like, that can be common for loads of different reasons. So, like, when you're growing up, like, if you're someone that struggles with, like, self-worth or self-esteem, sometimes you can focus very much on those people that are outside of you. Yeah. So you're so focused on how they feel and adapting to them that actually, like, the way that you feel becomes irrelevant because, like, you're always second best kind of thing. Yeah. So then it makes it harder for you to understand how you feel. You're not used to connecting to it. And when you do connect into it, you aren't able to articulate it because you've never expressed it. So, like, when I first started on my journey, I had a feelings wheel. I still use one now with a lot of my clients. Yeah. Because, like, they might not be able to tell me what they're feeling, but if they see a word, they're like, oh my God, that's it. Yeah. So, like, it can really help familiarise you with how to do that. And in terms of processing an emotion, like, emotion is just energy. And that's one thing that people, I think, again, is a massive misconception. Like, people will say to me, I don't want to feel this anymore. Like, I want to get rid of my anxiety. I want to get rid of my insecurity. And it's like, you can't get rid of anything because emotion is an energy. So it can only be transmuted or transformed into something else. Okay. So in the same way that, like, for example, if you were cold, then, like, you can't talk yourself into being warm. You've actually got to do something. So you actually, like, put on a cardigan, you have a hot water bottle, you'll have a hot drink, and that is what changes that feeling of cold to a one that's warm. Right. Same. Like, so if you're working with any other feeling, like if you're working with betrayal, if you're working with, like, worthlessness, if you're working with, like, anxiety, you have to lean into that feeling, find out what causes it, and then give yourself whatever you need in order to change it. And it's much easier than you think. Like, we tend to attach our emotions and our feelings to people and things outside of us. So we'll be like, unless he says sorry, then I'm always going to feel this way. Or, like, unless this happens, then, like, nothing can change in my life. But actually, like, it's really easy to change your feelings. Close your eyes. Okay, so I want you to tell me like how you feel when I say these words. So I want you just to listen and think about focusing on the feelings in your body. War, cold, broken, lonely, shattered, bullied, injured, pain, sunshine, holidays, family, friends, laughter, beaches, love, cuddles, warmth, safety. Open your eyes. Could you feel a difference?
Yeah.
One made you feel sad, one made you feel happier. Literally, like, I mean, you went from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum in 60 seconds. You weren't on a beach, you weren't in a war, but you were able to change how you felt.
I was also thinking that you could be like, you could write a book and do like the voiceover for it, because you've got a really like
Everybody says that about my voice,
relaxing voice. So question for you then.
Yeah.
So you did all this like inner work, like the actual deep work, not the on paper work.
Not the on paper work, the inner
deep work, trying to figure out where does this come from?
Yeah.
Let me kind of address it. Has that really influenced what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Is that why you're so big on women?
Yeah. Massively. Because like, I feel like I spent, like I'm 44 years old this year.
Can't believe it still.
Yeah. But
34.
44. I'm
44. She's 44.
I'm 44.
She's in a second career, third career.
Yeah. So I'm 44.
Yeah.
This year in May. And I feel like for 39 years of my life, I hated myself.
Wow.
And like once I realised how easy it was to feel better, how quickly I could change my confidence, how much I could love myself, then I felt like I need every other woman to learn how to do this. I need to show every other woman to know how to do this, because I achieved literally in weeks, in months, something that I've been trying to achieve in years using the methods that I use now.
Wow.
Because of the fact that they work on a subconscious basis.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they find exactly what has created those thoughts and feelings. Because of the fact that we're able to go to that specific moment and change your connection to it there and then. Like these methods create like real instant change in your brain so that you naturally show up and feel that way immediately after that session.
That's crazy.
And it's not even like a thought based, as in like when you go to the gym, I'm going to try to go to the gym, I'm going to try to be healthy. That is who you are, because I've stored that in your permanent brain and your permanent memory on a long-term basis.
So you're like
so
hacking.
The next day, it's like hacking, yeah. The next day, that's effortless, that's natural for you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to think about something, you just are that thing. And the best thing is that you get to tell me what it is that you want to be first. So like, if you be like, do you know what, Michelle, I want to be Beyonce, I'll be like, okay, girl, let's go.
I'm going to put a little bit of Beyonce into you.
Yeah, like you could literally create like those beliefs on a subconscious level so that you embody that, so that you naturally feel that, so you've got that confidence, so that you feel like a goddess. That is literally what I want to do.
We'll be doing the goddess. We're
going to do some goddess. We're going to do some goddess sessions at the retreat.
Woo! Oh, okay, yeah, great. So this is actually a really good thing. So you do these sessions, right?
Yeah.
So what can people expect if they was to do like a one-on-one session with you, right? What sort of things can they expect?
Okay.
And then can you talk a little bit about this retreat that you've got coming up, that I'm definitely going to be there because I want to feel like Beyonce. I'm going to leave the retreat feeling like Beyonce.
You will literally connect with yourself in a way that you've never connected before.
Okay.
Like you will, it's like one of those days where you're going to have so many light bulb moments. You're going to have so many epiphanies. If you've ever searched for answers, if you've ever wondered like why your life has been the way that it is, or why you are the way that you are, or if you know that you've got like a very set vision for what you want your life to be or how you want to feel, that is the day where you're going to achieve it.
Yeah.
Like we do a lot on that day.
Yeah.
And like if you come to work with me on a one-on-one basis, then it depends on like what you want to work on, because like I work with women around like self-confidence and self-worth and just truly loving themselves and feeling comfortable in their skin, because I want every woman in this world to know that the way that they are right now, exactly as they are, is enough. is always been enough. And I want them to have unshakable confidence in who they are when they look in that mirror. They want them to be like, yes. And it's so quick for women to get there.
Really?
So quick. Like, honestly, like most people, I think when they think about this healing journey, they think it's going to be hard and they think it's going to be painful. But it is so not.
It doesn't have to be, does it?
It doesn't have to be. Like,
it doesn't have to be a struggle.
It's not going to be a struggle. Like,
My
honestly,
God.
a lot of the methods that I use are... Like, a lot of the methods that I use are quick.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, like, quite holistic.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to be sat there with a clipboard evaluating you and you're not going to be telling me your life story and in tears, you know? Like, we are going to be going on a bit of an emotional journey and I am going to be connecting you to that emotion because you have to connect to that emotion for me to be able to transform it into something else.
Sure.
But we work in, like, a very self-contained way. So at the end of every session, you are either going to be feeling, like, higher than you've ever felt before, like happy, content, excited, or, like, just generally at peace. You will feel, like, total resolve with whatever that thing is. And you can work on literally anything. Do you know, like, I've done this work on my money beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, you don't have to limit it to, like, self-confidence or self-worth. You can do it on absolutely anything. The sessions are quite fun. Like, I use sound throughout all of my sessions. So some of my sessions, like, we'll even get down to house music.
I think that's so cool.
Honestly, like, because I think to myself, that is what I love. Like, music really does something to me. I feel it, like, in my bones.
Sure.
Like, I'm one of those people that gets goosebumps from music. And, like, when I use music, I use it for very specific reasons. So, like, the reason that I use house music is because of the BPM. You know, like, a lot of heart music is in. Like, it's actually in the same BPM as your heartbeat. So naturally it regulates your body. It puts you into a state of, like, relaxation, into a state of rest, like, without you even doing anything. Emotion, like, is also engendered by music. So, like, I can play a song and it could move you to tears. I could play a song that's going to, like, totally excite you and help you feel motivated. So, like, all of the sessions that I deliver are quite experiential.
Wow.
It's so far away from the traditional like, ideas of what therapy is. It's like more of a journey. Like, most people come to my sessions and they're like, that was so fun, and I always laugh about it because a lot of the women that I work with have experienced, like, some really tough stuff in their life, and sometimes we're revisiting things that are painful, that are distressing, and, like, they'll get to the end of the session and be like, oh, that was amazing. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, when else would you be able to say that? When else would you be able to revisit the things that, like, you've avoided for your whole life that have been incredibly painful and come out of that session and think, I bloody love that.
I love it.
That was amazing. Like, I just feel incredible. Like, now I want to go take on the world. Like, that is how you will feel at the end of my sessions.
Sure. Well, it sounds like, especially because you've got such a range of experience, like you've got, like, qualifications on qualifications, right? Like, you are clearly a big learner. It's interesting because you use the term, like, holistic, but a lot of the stuff that you do is also science-backed, right? Like, you've got the science element, the quantum physics element, bit of spirituality in there, bit of house music. I love that. And do you think that's kind of your goal, like, as a coach, to be, like, intuitive as well to what that person needs? Yeah, so, like, I'm very much a client-led person. So, like, there are some things that I would deliver for some clients that I just wouldn't for others, depending on, like, where you sit. Because I'm quite open, do you know? Like, I'm very much into spirituality, but I'm also very much into science. And actually, like, a lot of spirituality is science. It's 100%.
just that people don't realise that it is. And
11.
I kind of love the fact, that, like, I'm able to bring so many different things together. And again, like, I feel like it's kind of representative of me as a person. Like, if I think about what I talked about, like, as I was younger and feeling like I needed to fit in this box, like, I don't want to fit in a box. Like, I see that there are so many different ways that you can help people to feel better. Like, why stick to one? And, like, and I'm not a massive fan of anyone that says, like, this one thing is going to be the thing that changes your life and it's going to be the only thing that can change your life and it's going to be the thing that changes it, like, in the best way ever.
No, you need a bit of everything, don't you?
I feel like you need a bit of everything, and a lot of the methods that I use combine lots of different approaches. You take the best bits of lots of different approaches. And I feel like that is the only way to work, to account for differences in who we all are as people. And not even, like, in who we are all as people, just preference. Like, some people might not like house music, and don't worry, like, you know, like, you don't have to listen to it.
Can we have R&B for my have a bit of R&B?
We can have all sorts of stuff. It's such like an amalgamation. It's like a melting pot. But, like, I like that. I just like working in that way because, like, diversity is important to me. Representation is important to me. I want richness in everything that I do. So like bringing like the duality of like spirituality and science, for example, bringing the duality of like music and, you know, like therapy.
Yeah.
I love it. Like that's how I like to work. And I think it's the thing that like for most people when they think about feeling better, like particularly if you're thinking, some people think about like, oh, I just want more confidence. Other people think therapy. You know, like, and when people think about therapy, for example, then like they immediately associate that with struggle. They immediately feel like, oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Like, or they worry about like, oh, I don't know where it's going to go. Like, how am I going to feel? Am I going to be able to function differently?
Yeah.
Some people think, is it going to work? Like, what is the change that I'm going to feel? And like, I want people to feel excited for my sessions. Do you know, like, even though, like, you know, we're going to go back to that thing, or we're going to go deep and we're going to uncover things about you that you didn't even know. Like, you also know, like, in the session, you're going to have an amazing time, and at the end of it, you're going to fly high. Yeah. And literally, like, it isn't one of those things where you think, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 months, 6 months, and then I'm going to see a difference. No, you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to feel different.
Jeez.
You know, like, and every single time you have a session, you are going to feel different. And so the transformation that I see, like, is just, like, mind-blowing because it's at far greater speed, do you know, like, than anything else that most people would normally anticipate, you know, like, or even expect. Yeah. Like, I can take someone who literally is at rock bottom, as in, like, can't get out of bed, can't function, like, hate the world, hate myself, don't even think I want to be here. And literally in 3 weeks' time, they'll be like, I'm back, baby. Yeah.
Do you know what? I know a lot of people who are listening to this right now, they're going to be like, how do I book on?
At Shay Matthews UK on Facebook or Instagram.
There you go, guys, if you need a session. Final question for you. So right now, there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of people, you know, who want to kind of help people and encourage people and empower people. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be in your space but doesn't know how to define themselves, or they don't know whether to like niche down and help a certain type of demographic, especially because you're very much like multimodal?
Yeah. So, like, do you know what? I feel like this has been a bit of a journey for me. And the one thing that I would say to everybody is that I don't feel like you need to make that decision straight away.
Love it.
So when I first started, like, I worked with everybody and anybody. And it was through working with everybody and anybody that I came to understand where my real passion lied. Because actually, when I first got into this space, probably because of that partner that I was trying to change, I was like, I'm going to work with men.
Really?
Yeah. Initially, I thought I was going to work with men because I felt like it was like a gap in the market.
Wow.
I felt like, you know, like men didn't have enough access to like these kinds of services, or they didn't access, maybe men just didn't access these kinds of services. And I had a lot of male friends that always I felt safe around, and they felt safe around me for whatever reason. So that's kind of where I like started out. But then
you were saying people gravitated towards you anyway when
I was always that person that asked me for advice. I was always the person that they came to sort out things when they went wrong, if they needed a solution, or if they'd never done something before, they'd come to me, because I've always been someone that would just be like, yeah, we'll figure it out. You know, like, well, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out.
2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah. Like, that's one thing I love about me, my like figure out ability, like whatever that is. But so like, through my experiences of working with people is what helped me understand where my passion lied. Because like I said, I thought I was going to work with men, very quickly realised that I wanted to work with women. And I started out working with women that like had quite complex needs, that would like identify themselves as saying that they have quite a lot of trauma, that had been through quite a lot of abusive situations. And like, I love helping those people, and I still do help those people. Yeah. However, like, what I realised was that my passion was in helping other women who had been where I'd been. Yeah. Like, my connection to my story is just so powerful for me. Do you know, like, it's where my heart is. And I think, like, when I see another woman who has struggled in the same way as me, do you know, like, or has struggled in a similar way as me, then that is the thing that like really lights me up, because I feel like we're instantly connected.
Yeah,
you know, like when you're telling me your story, I feel like I can see myself in you, and hopefully you can see yourself in me.
No, of course.
So like, for anybody that's wanting to get into this space, I would really think about like what your story is, like what your experience has been, like who can you help, and like how would people relate to you? Yeah. How do you want people to relate to you? Wow. It's not that you always need to have kind of experienced, you know, like the thing that you're helping people with. But for me, I think the reason that I know the women that I work with so well is because I've lived it, I've breathed it, I've done it. And the reason why I feel like the programs that I deliver really hit for those ladies is because I know their journey.
Wow.
You know, inside out. So I can talk about it with ease. Like I can use their language when I talk about my relationships and things like trying to change your partner. They're like, yeah, me too.
Been there.
Yeah.
Been reading about it.
On a t-shirt. So like think about so many different things, but just always know that the decision is yours.
Yeah.
You know, like I think in the beginning I like thought about lots of different things in terms of like, you know, like where's there a gap in the market and you know, what is gonna like help me gain profile. But I just think passion will take you further than anything like skill, qualification, like pure passion alone. If you're interested, if you're motivated, if something really lights like a fire in your belly, it doesn't really matter like what that thing is, you will make it work, you know. So yeah.
Well, we were chatting about this earlier, but the passion definitely shows. You are definitely passionate about women and helping them reclaim their narrative.
Honestly, I love that word.
They are like really, really, really passionate. So thank you so much. Like this has been really amazing. I'm sure everyone who watches this is going to be like, do you know what? I'm not going to do any superficial self-care anymore. I'm going to get to the root.
Get to the root.
And join you on the retreat.
Come to the retreat. Like the retreat is going to be so exciting.
I'm really excited for it.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm excited to do like the inner child work and breath work and all the different modalities you do.
Yeah, I've done the retreat before, but I'm thinking I might do like something a little bit different with this one, just because you know, like as women in particular, like I don't think as women we appreciate how much conditioning we're exposed to day in, day out.
Yeah.
You know, like you see images of what a woman should be, of how you should look, of how you should live your life. And like from a very young age, like you have an ideal on a subconscious level that you are trying to live up to.
Yeah.
Even as a role, whether that is a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, like whatever
as
that
an
is.
Indian, a really respectful Indian girl.
Yeah, like whatever that is. But like that image in your subconscious is the thing that you like hold yourself accountable to, like just on such a deep level.
Yeah.
And so like if you don't even understand what that image is for you, then there will always be a part of you that never feels enough.
Wow. So. We'll end on that because that's powerful. Oh, drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic. Okay, so we do this thing at the end of a podcast.
Okay.
So
I love this.
Yeah, so basically what we do is we say, here's to pivot in more in 2025.
Yeah.
And we say it at the same time. So
okay.
I'll count us in. 3, 2, 1.
Here's to pivot in more in 2025.
Woo!